Alright guys, so this is present day for the part 2 of the 2018-2019 grafting, and I thought it only fitting that we start out having a look at basically where all of the grafting begins, and that is with the Perisciopsis army, as I call it. So it's been let go to sort of grow a little bit more. I've drastically reduced watering to try and slow down the growth because it has a bit of a weed-like growth habit because it grows very, very strong, which is why it is such a good grafting stock. And just in case you knew or didn't recall, before this current season, I mentioned that I'd set myself a goal of wanting to do 300 grafts, and it was an ambitious target at best, definitely very, very ambitious. And to be honest, I didn't end up on 300. But you know, I think it's important to set yourself targets in the hope that you know, you sort of push yourself to achieve more. But look, enough dilly-daddling. Let's just go up, and I'll show you where I ended up. Alrighty, so here we are. And yeah, it just keeps going. So as you can see, there is an absolute sea of grafts. So I wasn't lying at the start of the video when I said I didn't end up on 300. I didn't. I actually ended up closer to 600. I don't really know, if I'm honest, how it happened. I just started, and then I just basically didn't stop. So I grouped them for the sake of this video, and I don't care to admit how long that actually took because they were all mixed in. But let's, I'm just going to take you on a little bit of a pan shot through, and I'll show you some of the amazing cacti that are starting to pop up. Going through here is where all of the asterias are. Seed source is from various vendors, some private, some commercial seed vendors, and I had two key objectives when I started this season, the grafting. That is that I wanted to drastically increase the numbers of asterias in my collection, and so just in these rows alone, because they go 11 back, there's I think around 70 or 80 odd asterias, all different types and variations, as you can see here. So some really special ones starting to appear, and it realistically won't be another year or so, maybe 6 to 12 months, before we see the full scope of what's going to come of them, because they will morph and change as they grow. So the asterias was one of the main objectives that I had, and the other was Ariocarpus, which we're coming into now. And these are just starting to show their characteristics and how interesting they're starting to become as well. The Ariocarpus, I didn't end up with as many as the asterias, and that is because the seed's a bit more expensive. So I think I ended up with around 60 or 70 Ariocarpus, which is still, I believe, a fairly reasonable outcome. And hopefully some of these run true to type, because some of these seeds, just in case you're wondering, cost up to $2.50 per seed. So that's the sort of price bracket that I was working in. Not all of them were that much. Some of them were more, I guess you could say, common varieties, and so they didn't attract the price tag, but some of them certainly did. But I had a very acceptable level of germination rate, and then also my success rate for grafting. I ended up running at 95% for the season, which I was quite happy with. It would have been 97.5, but I started experimenting towards the end, so that made me lose a few percent. And then we move across into Miryostigma, which I did not actually plan on doing quite so many, but it just kind of got away from me. But in saying that, there's some spectacular ones through here. There's some that I'm really interested to see where they end up. This one here, for instance, I don't know what it's doing. I've not seen an Astrophytum do that before. An Astrophytum can, when they're young, look rather interesting and show some interesting characteristics, and then they can grow out of them. But also on the flip side, they can do the reverse of that. So you never really know until the growth starts to stabilize. But here they all are here. Again, a mixed variety of sources. There's a lot of Onzuka through here. I did buy a lot of Onzuka seed because I quite like the patterns. And then there's another particularly interesting one, which is just here. I don't really know why it's pointing out the areoles so much, and whether that'll continue or whether it's just a sort of a little bit of a freak occurrence while it's young. Moving across, so for the next couple of rows, I think there's four rows minus 3 plants, are all Gymnocalycium, and they're all from variegated hybrid seed. So you can see there's some interesting colours coming through. Some of them are just green or baseline colours, but these were all seed grown and really interesting. Some of these were the last batch that I did, so these are still very small. These were done very late in the piece, so they don't look terribly interesting at this point, and I'm not sure I'll be able to zoom in much, but you can sort of start to see the new spines coming through, which is quite interesting. Then the last row across the back on this table is Lophophora. So Williamsii are the one at the back left, and the next few are either diffuser or Fritchii or Fitchii, I think it's called. I don't know. I didn't label them because I didn't really care too much. I just wanted some interesting looking lofts. And then the last 4 here, Geohintonia mexicana, and you might have seen me post on Facebook. These were one of the smallest seedlings that I grafted for the season. They were absolutely tiny, about the size of a pinhead. I don't know how I managed it, but I got 4 out of it, and they're really starting to take on some shape. And so we'll keep moving along so we don't end up with a 45-minute video. Coming through here, and I believe there's about 8 rows, so about 80 or 90 plants, because this one runs 11 back as well. These are all from the Ariocarpus family. I focus predominantly on Chileorebutia. A few pyrocactus as well, but predominantly Chileorebutia. There are definitely some Neochilenia in there. Not very many Neoporteria. That extension of the Ariocarpus family is not one that I find terribly interesting. I'm more so like the Neochilenia and Chileorebutia. I find those the most visually appealing, and so that's what I focused on. And a lot of these I do not have in my collection. Actually, I think nearly all of them I don't have. So even for someone like me with a large collection who's been collecting for a very long time, my collection is still far from complete, and I don't think it ever will be, if I'm honest. I did some Copiapoa as well. So having a look here, if you can see that beautiful one with the black spines, that's Copiapoa griseoviolacea, I believe it is, and I did 4 of those, and there's 2 in particular that are a bit fluffier on the right hand side, so it'd be interesting to see whether they retain that. And then those 3 little white fluffy powder puffs are Copiapoa lowii, so it'd be nice to see what comes of those. And then there's a few running through the back here, which are my the seed that my plants have produced, and I try and mix and match to see if you can hybridize them or whether they're self-fertile, so I'll know once they start growing a bit more whether they get interesting. And also just going quickly back across to the Erioses, there's a good chunk in there as well that are seeds that my plants have produced. And coming through here, this is fairly mixed, although there is Labivia, Rebutia, Echinocereus, I think that's all. Yeah, those ones there. This Echinocereus here, look how fast it's grown. That's incredible. At most, it's 6 months old at most, and it's quite stout already. And the Labivias grow very, very quickly when grafted, and some people might think it's a waste grafting Labivia because they do grow quickly naturally, but I wanted to have some grafted ones just to have that peace of mind knowing that I'll get them to a size where, you know, basically once they get to sort of that size there, they're pretty much bulletproof. Some are a little more sensitive than others, but they're pretty tough plants. And there's a couple of Trichocereus hybrids through here. So this is, I can't even remember now. I think it's Red Grandy or something hybrid in there. I did a few of those just to see what would happen. Quite interested. Big monster coming up now. That is Cactus Bueckii. I love Cactus. I think they're beautiful. This guy's just blown up like you wouldn't believe. And then the last two rows that we're coming up to now, these are all Gymnocalycium. And in hindsight, I'm a little bit annoyed with myself that I didn't graft more Gymnocalycium. They weren't really on the priority list, even though I did buy quite a reasonable amount of seed for them. But I'm still a little bit annoyed with myself because I would have liked to have had more. There's some really interesting spines and colours and patterns coming up now. So there's only around 25 or something like that through here, which I definitely wish there were more. But you know, next season I've already got my key priority plants picked out, and Gymnocalycium will be in there, as will Echinopsis. But I'll share my 2019-2020 plans in a separate video. So just a final pan shot of how many grafts I actually did, and yeah, definitely exceeded the 300 target. Well and truly blew it out of the water, and I'd done so very, very early on in the season. So I would love to hear from you guys what you think the grafting target for next season should be. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully, if the number's not too crazy, I'll be able to do it. But I'm thinking it has to be at least past 600. I'm sort of thinking around the 1200 mark. That's sort of where I'm going. But obviously, with my current setup, I'm not sure I'm going to have enough space to facilitate that. But I don't know. You never know what's around the corner. So I'd still like to know what you think I should, what the number should be, and we'll go from there. And I'll start putting things in place so I can actually do it. All right, everyone. Look, thanks for watching, and as always, happy gardening. Bye.